My parents demanded that my husband and I hand over our honeymoon because they funded the wedding. When we refused, they kept pushing for a refund. I planned to deal with it after the trip, but at check-in, we found both our flights and room had been switched, with extra charges hitting my card. The resort's loss prevention team sent the check-in ID scan, and that was the last straw. It's funny how the best day of your life can be the starting point for the absolute worst. My name's Audrey. One moment I was dancing with my new husband, Liam, under a canopy of fairy lights, surrounded by everyone we loved. The air smelled of roses and champagne, and for the first time the future felt like this vast, shimmering, beautiful thing. Liam and I weren't kids anymore. I was 28, he was 30, and we had built our lives carefully. That wedding, that perfect magical day, felt like the culmination of everything we had worked for. A significant part of that magic, I thought, was thanks to my parents. They had sat us down 6 months before the wedding, beaming. "We want you to have the perfect start," my mom had said, her eyes glistening. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $15,000. Liam and I were floored. We had been saving, planning a much more modest affair, but this changed everything. It meant we could have the string quartet I'd dreamed of. The caterer everyone raved about, the venue that looked like it was ripped from a storybook. "This is your wedding gift from us," my dad had declared, puffing out his chest in that way he did when he was proud. "No strings attached, just make it a day to remember." I knew it. And we did. We were so grateful. We hugged them, cried a little, and accepted their incredibly generous gift. Throughout the planning, the phrase wedding gift was used constantly. Not loan, not investment, a gift. It was a foundation, they said, for our new life together. Our honeymoon, however, was entirely our own creation. That was our sacred space, the reward we gave ourselves after years of hard work and saving. While my parents' money was elevating the wedding, every spare dollar Liam and I earned went into a separate account labeled Paradise. For 2 years, we'd skipped expensive dinners, passed on weekend trips, and worn our old coats for another winter. The destination was a closely guarded secret, a dream we whispered about late at night, a secluded overwater villa in the Maldives. We booked the best package we could find, business class flights, all-inclusive luxury, a private chef experience. It cost a fortune, our fortune, and it had nothing to do with the wedding gift. In our minds, they were two completely separate things. That fundamental misunderstanding, it turns out, was a ticking time bomb. The bomb went off 1 week before our scheduled departure, over a plate of my mom's dry pot roast. My parents had invited us over for a post-wedding pre-honeymoon dinner. The vibe felt off from the moment we walked in. We spent the first hour making awkward small talk, showing them photos from the wedding photographer on Liam's phone. "Oh, that's a lovely one," my mom said, peering at a photo. "You can really see how much that venue cost. Worth every penny of our money." I felt a prickle of annoyance but let it slide. They had been dropping comments like this more frequently since the wedding, casually reminding everyone, especially on social media, that they had funded the entire event. Speaking of expensive, my dad chimed in, "Karen was just showing me the website for that resort you two are going to. The Maldives, right? Looks incredible." "It is," I said, my excitement bubbling up again. "We managed to get one of the sunset villas. I still can't believe it's real." My mom sighed dramatically. "It must be nice. Your father and I are just exhausted. All that wedding planning, the stress, the expense. We could really use a vacation." Liam and I exchanged a quick, confused look. "You guys should take one," he said cheerfully. "You deserve it." "That's the thing, honey," my mom said, her voice taking on a syrupy, manipulative tone. "We've been thinking about it. We poured so much into your wedding. A small fortune, really. It seems only fair that the vacation that comes after it should be for the people who paid for the party. We think you should give us the honeymoon. You and Liam are young. You have your whole lives to travel. Just transfer the booking information over to our names." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Mom, no," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "That's not happening. This is our honeymoon." "Don't be selfish, Audrey," my dad snapped. "We gave you $15,000. We made that wedding happen. You owe us." The word owe hung in the air, ugly and sharp. "The money was a gift, Dad," I said, my voice growing stronger. "You said it was a wedding gift. It doesn't give you the right to our honeymoon, which we paid for ourselves." "Our money, your money, what's the difference?" my mom scoffed. "If you hadn't had our money for the wedding, you would have had to use your honeymoon savings for it, wouldn't you?" "So really, we paid for the honeymoon too." Liam could no longer stay silent. "With all due respect," he said, his voice level but laced with steel, "that's not how gifts work. We are not giving you our honeymoon." My parents' faces turned thunderous. The argument exploded. They called us ungrateful, selfish, spoiled. When they realized we wouldn't budge, they pivoted. "Fine." My mother shrieked, "If you're going to be that way, then we want a refund. You need to pay us back for the trip." My head was spinning. To avoid a full-blown screaming match, I made a strategic retreat. "Look," I said, standing up. "We are going on our trip. We can discuss this when we get back." We left early. In the car, I cried once, angry and embarrassed tears that made my mascara itch. "Should we cancel?" I asked. "No," Liam said. "We're going. We earned this. Boundaries are healthy, even for people who made you." We spent the next few days excited and cautious. I tightened our accounts, changed a few passwords, then talked myself down for being paranoid. I reminded myself, gift means gift. Adults don't hijack their child's honeymoon. That would be unhinged. We packed sunscreen and paperback novels, and the dress I bought on clearance that made me feel like a movie star. The morning we left, we were obnoxiously happy. Airport early, coffees, hand-holding. We'd checked in online the night before, seed assignments showing those blissful little pods with doors. All we had to do was drop our bags and strut to security like we were in a montage. The woman at the counter scanned our passports, smiled, and then frowned. She tried again. She called her colleague. She frowned harder. "I'm so sorry," she said. "There's been a change to your reservation." "What kind of change?" Liam asked. He's very good at calm voice when the ship is sinking. "It looks like someone modified your booking 2 days ago," she said. "You're no longer on our flight. You're rebooked on Economy Saver Air. Not the actual name, but the vibe. With a layover of 8 hours." She winced. "Our seats, our business class seats are gone?" I said. "Gone," she said, checking again. "I can see a change record, but I can't change it back. That would require ticket inventory we don't have." I felt my stomach tilt. I dialed the resort from muscle memory because I am the kind of person who puts the confirmation number in the Notes app with too many emojis. "Hi," I said, bright as a warning flare. "Can you confirm our villa booking for tonight?" "Of course, Ms. Jameson," the front desk said. "Let me pull up your file." "Okay, I see a change yesterday. Your overwater villa was swapped for a garden view room, and the primary guest name is now Richard with an accompanying guest, Karen. They checked in via our early online process." I thought I was going to black out. "Also," the woman continued delicately, "I'm seeing a handful of charges for a candlelight dinner and a spa package, added yesterday. They're on the card ending in 2391. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. Fraud alerts started stacking up on my lock screen like falling bricks. International charge, $699. International charge, $200. International charge, $315. And here's where I tell you something that will either make you cheer or think I'm terrifying. I didn't cry. Something in me froze exactly right. The panic slid off and something hard and smooth locked into place. "Okay," I said to the agent. "Thank you for the information. We'll be in touch." We stepped out of line with our untouched suitcase scales and our perfect airport coffees and sat on the floor like college students who'd missed a midterm. "Somebody hijacked our honeymoon," Liam said, in the same voice you use when a waiter tells you they're out of bread. He was trying not to spook me. "I know who," I said, and my voice sounded like a stranger's. I called the bank. "I want to report fraud," I said. "Lock the card. Freeze the account. Place an alert. I can verify every single charge I've made for the last 2 weeks if you need me to. But anything in the Maldives is not me." The agent took my information and, bless her, spoke to me like I wasn't crazy. "We'll reverse those resort charges and open a case," she said. "Change your online banking password and enable extra authentication, just in case." I called the airline's customer service, then the corporate office, then the press 4 if you're about to scream line. I explained that we were victims of unauthorized changes. I asked, politely and then not politely, for a log of the IP addresses associated with the modifications. "It'll take some time," the woman said, "but yes, we can provide a record for the investigation." "Great," I said, "send it to this email." Then I called the resort and asked for their loss prevention or security team. If you say loss prevention with enough authority, people assume you're either an attorney or someone who knows where the bodies are buried. The manager came on the line. I explained that our reservation had been tampered with. I used the words identity theft. I said we will be filing a police report. I asked for their change logs, including access times and any verification IDs used. "We take this very seriously," he said. "We can send you the audit trail and will require identification from anyone who checks in with your reservation. If someone already has, we will share what we're legally allowed to." Legally allowed to turned out to be a lot because identity theft is not a vibe. It's a crime. By the time we had wrung our hearts dry in the airport lounge and gone home, my email started pinging. The airline sent a note with a string of numbers that looked like a robot's diary. Attached was a summary. The modifications had been made from an IP address registered to a cable provider in my parents' zip code. The tamper point had the timestamp of a Tuesday night when my mother always posts a Throwback Thursday by accident. Then the resort wrote back. "We've attached the check-in package used for online verification," they said. "Please confirm if you recognize this document." I clicked. It was a scan of my father's driver's license, the clean, official rectangle of it, his grainy smile, his name, used to verify identity for a check-in that did not belong to him. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. Something colder than anger flooded me, the kind of quiet that eats noise. It brought back every childhood scene where my mother took credit for my science fair, where my father told family that I owed them for private school even when they'd insisted. It played a highlight reel of the wedding. My mother tag-teaming the photo booth to explain to strangers on Facebook how generous they were, narrating her largesse in the comments like she was live tweeting a charity telethon. It reminded me how I didn't want to accept the wedding money at first because I knew there would be a string somewhere, and then a rope, and then a noose. But they insisted. "Let us do this for you," Mom said. And then they told a small town's worth of people that their adult daughter would be a failure without them. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was an escalation. If this story were fiction, this would be the part where the protagonist realizes the monster isn't under the bed but in the family room, holding a glass of Chardonnay. Do we go to the police? Liam asked. He squeezed my shoulder, grounding me. We do, I said, but first we call them. I put the phone on speaker and dialed my parents. It rang twice, and my mother answered, breathless, like she had been running or laughing. In the background, I could hear clinking glassware and a low hum. Music? Resort lobby noise? My stomach clenched. Hi, Mom, I said. My voice sounded like a lawyer whose billable hours eat countries. We have the airline's IP logs. They show changes from your network. The resort sent me the ID used to check in to our reservation. It's Dad's driver's license. You committed identity theft and fraud. Silence. Then, what on earth are you talking about? She said, shaky sweet. You heard me, I said. My dad got on the line, breathy and indignant. We deserved it, he snapped. We paid for your wedding. You gave us a gift, I said. That doesn't buy our honeymoon. It doesn't buy my credit card. It doesn't buy my legal name. I took a breath. You have two options. Option 1. You wire us the total cost of the original honeymoon. Flights, resort, everything, and every fraudulent charge you've made by end of day tomorrow. I will send you an itemized invoice. You will also reimburse any fees we incur rebooking and any interest if this bleeds into our billing cycle. Option 2. I file a police report with the evidence I have, and we let this play out in court. My mother sputtered. You wouldn't. I would, I said. I will. And regardless of what you choose, we're done. You will not contact me or Liam again. As for the wedding money, because I know you'll use it as a cudgel until your last breath, I'm setting terms. Liam and I will repay the $15,000. We'll do $3,000 a year for 5 years. That's our schedule. There was no timeline agreed upon, so you don't get to demand it immediately. You will receive the first payment on January 1st. If you refuse, I'll send it to charity in your name. Now, what's it going to be? Liam leaned into the phone just enough, and for the record, you will not be meeting any future grandchildren, not after this. Don't be dramatic, my mother said, but her voice faltered. I hung up, my hands shook, Liam wrapped me up, and we just stood there breathing. Then we called the non-emergency police line, filed a report, and emailed every piece of proof we had. The airline's change logs, the resort's audit trail, the ID scan, screenshots of the charges, a copy of my wedding thank you email to them where the word gift appears 3 times like a spell I should have cast harder. If you've never been on the receiving end of a family smear campaign, let me paint the genre for you. Within an hour, my phone started behaving like a slot machine. Ding, my aunt, the one who calls everyone doll, telling me to calm down. Ding, my cousin who owes me $200 and a sincere apology, accusing me of ruining the family vibe. Ding. A blocked number leaving a message where you could hear ice clinking and someone giggling like this was juicy gossip instead of a felony. Flying monkeys, the internet calls them. People who will carry someone else's madness because it makes them feel useful. I blocked them all. Then I texted 3 people in my family who care about facts. My brother, my grandmother, and the cousin who is basically my sister. I sent a short version. Mom and Dad hijacked our honeymoon. We have proof. We've asked for repayment by tomorrow, or we pursue legal action. We're going no contact. I will not be discussing this further. My grandmother called me darling and told me to get some rest. My brother sent a string of disbelief that ended with, I'm so sorry. My cousin said, I always knew she'd do something like this, which was both supportive and sad. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with a notebook and did what I do when I'm scared. I made lists. I listed every charge. I listed every account to lock down. I listed everything my mother had ever done that I'd forgiven, thought I'd forgiven, or told myself was just her way. And it spilled for pages. The birthday where she unwrapped my present to help. The college tour where she told the guide I'd need extra attention because I have trouble staying on task. The internship she tried to negotiate without asking me as if I were a minor child in need of a handler. The time she told me, in front of relatives, that Liam, quote, is fine but not exceptional, as if I'd picked a subpar appliance from a catalog. Every item ended in a period. Seeing them that way, small and stark and back to back, did something alchemical. It turned vague hurt into something you can move around like furniture. In the morning, I sent my parents the invoice. It had a header. Itemized demand for reimbursement. Underneath, line by line, I listed original round-trip business class airfare for 2, 6, $800, 5 nights in Overwater Villa, 7, $500, prepaid activities, $650, fraudulent resort charges to my card, 2, $214, card reversal fee, $35, phone call international charge, $18, rebooking fee, TBD. I CC'd our new lawyer because we found one at midnight. There is always a lawyer awake at midnight if you're willing to pay, and we were, and added a line at the bottom. Total due by 5 p.m. tomorrow, $217. Failure to remit will trigger immediate legal action. The lawyer, Her name is Keisha, and she is exactly as formidable as you're imagining. Drafted a letter on crisp letterhead that said the same thing in the language of people who mean it. She also told us to pull our credit reports, set fraud alerts with the bureaus, and memorialize everything in writing. Assume a judge will see every word, she said. So make your words the kind that win. By noon, my mother texted me a photo of a bank transfer confirmation for $5,000 and a paragraph that read like a valedictory speech at Manipulation High. We're so sorry for making you sad, she wrote. We never meant to hurt you. We just thought we were entitled to a little happiness after all we've done. Please don't ruin this family over a misunderstanding. I forwarded it to Keisha, who replied with 3 words. Partial payment received. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I removed my parents' contact photo, which was us smiling at some beach 5 years ago, and let their names float on a gray background like they were no longer attached to faces I loved. It hurt in a way that made my chest feel empty and full at once. Day 2, more calls from cousins. Day 3, a Facebook post from my mother about kids these days and respect, which my grandmother shut down with a comment so clean it should be framed. Respect is repaid with respect, not theft. My grandmother has lived long enough to no longer care about being invited to brunch. Day 4, my mother's friend, who sells essential oils and advice, sent me the longest voice note I've ever received, alternating between scripture and skincare tips, telling me to choose grace. I archived it. Day 5, Keisha sent a final demand letter with a firm deadline and the words criminal complaint in bold. Day 7, my parents' lawyer called Keisha. Then, suddenly, all the noise stopped. The monkeys went quiet. My phone was a lake without ripples. I could feel them, over there, in their large house with the stone facade, arguing and pacing, and finally doing the only math that mattered. What they did versus what we could prove. On day 9, we got a bank transfer for the remaining balance, plus an extra $400 labeled apology. I didn't spend it on anything poetic. I put it toward the new honeymoon we were booking because yes, we were going again. Only this time, we were going bigger, if only to scrub the taste out of our mouths. We chose a different place, Seychelles, because every photo looked like a screensaver for a better life. We booked through a travel agent who knew how to lock down a file like Fort Knox, and who, when I said, please don't let anyone access this, sent back a PDF with password protected, stamped across it like a magic spell. We used a new credit card with a limit that we would pay off in full, because I will never again hear a fraud alert ping mid-conversation and feel my soul leave my body. We also, because I am someone who has learned from pain, asked the airline to put a no third-party modifications note on our file and required in-person ID for any changes. Sassy? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. We also kept going with no contact. It sounds dramatic to say you've cut off your parents. That phrase conjures tabloid headlines and celebrity memoirs. But in practice, it looked like this. We muted the email thread where my mother tried to rewrite history. We told my brother that we love him and would meet him for coffee whenever, but that we weren't doing holidays with people who had to be threatened with charges to act right. We gave my grandmother our landline number. Yes, I have one. The cell service in our building is garbage, and told her she could call anytime. And then we let the silence sit. I thought I would miss the noise. I didn't. What I missed sometimes was the idea of parents who would be so proud of our honeymoon, they'd want to brag. Not because they were going instead of us, but because they were happy we were happy. I grieved that version of reality like it had died, because it had. In its place, I planted something new. The belief that loving people doesn't require endless accommodation. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks. You can give someone a key. You can also change the locks when they copy it without asking. On the morning we finally left for Seychelles, Liam made pancakes shaped like hearts, because he's a dork and I love him. We packed our bags with the same sunscreen and the same paperbacks, because our life was still ours. At the airport, I watched the agent scan our passports and waited for the frown. It didn't come. We glided through security, found our seats, and when the flight attendant asked us if we wanted champagne, we said yes, like we'd passed a test we didn't know we were taking. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Liam took my hand and said, we did it. Which part? I asked. All of it, he said. We got married, we set boundaries, we survived your parents' boss level, and we're going on our honeymoon, with you, not Richard and Karen. Side note, I still don't know who Richard and Karen were supposed to be. Maybe aliases, maybe my parents, travel fantasy names, maybe the universe making a joke. I didn't care enough to ask. The resort was absurd in the best way. We slept with the windows open and woke up to water so blue it looked fake. We ate fruit in shapes that made no sense. I let someone rub coconut oil into my scalp and learned that there's a version of me who can be 30% more relaxed than previously measured. We snorkeled and I squealed into my mask when a sea turtle swam by. We ordered room service and ate in bathrobes and made up stories about the rich couple 2 villas over who kept arguing about the correct temperature for steak. We looked at each other with that specific brand of married awe that says, it's us now. It's really us. On our last night, we walked down to the beach because the resort offered one of those candlelight dinners that I associate with The Bachelor. And normally I would roll my eyes so hard they'd fall out. But when the waiter set down the champagne and the sky went orange, I felt something unclench. The table was silly, sure, with its heart-shaped petals and its lanterns like tiny moons. but the silliness felt like a blessing. This is what you get after you walk through fire. You get to be corny on a beach with someone who refused to let the world ruin your joy. We talked, not about my parents, but about us. About the house we want, maybe not now, but later. About kids and how we'll raise them not to think gift means IOU. About visits with my grandmother, who has started teaching Liam to knit because she says, every man should know how to make something soft. About the $3,000 check we'd drop in the mail on January 1st, and every year after, not because we owed our parents obedience, but because we chose to end a story they kept trying to weaponize. We would pay it quietly. We would not tell Facebook. We would not let it buy access. When we got home, the world was the same and not. The sun hit our kitchen in the late afternoon exactly the way it always had, painting weird patterns on the floor. The plant my cousin watered while we were gone looked suspiciously alive. Our wedding photos arrived. There we were, laughing under those roses my mother had insisted on, and I felt a pang that we'd have to remember that day without inviting her into the memory too much. I picked one where Liam is looking at me like he can't believe I'm real, and put it in a frame on the mantel, and above it I taped a small envelope with our travel agent's card inside, and under that I stuck a post-it that said, in my own handwriting, boundaries are love. 2 weeks later, Keisha emailed to say the police report was on file and that while a prosecutor might not pick it up, cases like these live in the mushy middle where family meets fraud. We had enough documentation to shut down any attempt at, but we didn't mean it. That was never the point anyway. The point was us. The point was drawing a line in ink, not pencil. My parents have, I'm told, quieted down. Their lawyer likely told them what ours told us. You don't win cases like this in the court of Facebook. My brother sees them. He gives me neutral updates. Mom tried to bring you up, he said once. I told her I wasn't the suggestion box. He laughs when he says it, but it sounds like he's still learning where to put his own lines. You can set your own boundaries, I told him. Just because mine are here doesn't mean yours have to be, but also, they can. He nodded. We sipped our coffees and didn't solve anything big, which felt like progress. Sometimes, late at night, I think about my father attaching his driver's license to an email that did not belong to him. I think about my mother's voice, light and mean at the same time, saying she deserved my honeymoon. The herd is quieter now, a low tide. It still leaves shells behind you can cut your feet on, if you're not careful. But it also leaves room for something else, something bright and stubborn that looks suspiciously like self-respect. People online love to ask, at the end of these stories, am I the villain? Here's what I know. Protecting your life isn't villainy, it's maintenance. If someone slashes your tires and you start locking your garage, that's not cruelty, it's common sense. My parents slashed something I loved, so I locked the door. I also installed cameras, called a lawyer, and learned what an IP log looks like. Adulting. Triumph and sorrow in equal measure. And because I'm me, and because if you've made it this far, you're probably the kind of person who likes closure. Here's the epilogue. On January 1st, I wrote a check for $3,000. I put it in a plain envelope. No note, no glitter. I mailed it certified. Liam watched me slip it into the slot and said, "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. It's not about them anymore. It's about us keeping our promises to ourselves. We went home and made pancakes, because apparently that's our ritual now, and we sat at the kitchen table and did the crossword. The clue for 23 across was, sudden, decisive moment. We both wrote it in at the same time, sea change. Then Liam grinned at me like he always does when life rhymes. I grinned back, because ours does. If you're listening to this wondering if you should draw your own line, if you should tell a parent, a friend, a boss, no, that's mine. I can't decide for you, but I can tell you that the moment I stopped confusing acquiescence with love, the rest of my life started. And that life, it turns out, tastes like room service fries at midnight and the quiet hum of a hotel AC and a partner who says, "We'll figure it out," and then does. My parents say I'm ruining the family because I wouldn't let a misunderstanding slide. But the family they're talking about is a story where they're the heroes and I'm the grateful plot device. The family I'm building is a different book. The first chapter starts on a beach, where the lanterns glow and the waves sound like applause. The second chapter starts at a post office, with a plain envelope and a choice. The rest is unwritten. But I know this much. It won't be authored by anyone who thinks a gift is a leash. So no, I didn't hand over my honeymoon like a good little daughter. I handed over an invoice and a consequence. I locked my accounts, pulled the IP logs, filed the claim, copied the check-in ID scan, and drew a boundary so clean you could eat off it. And then I climbed into a plane with the person I chose and flew toward a life where love doesn't come with a receipt.